Go live. Hello everyone. I believe things are working now. Is everyone seeing me? I just need to make sure I get the chat box working this time, because the chat box doesn't always want to work. Hello everyone. I believe. Yes, okay, we are live. Yes, perfect. Not sure why chat box never wants to show up. That's always a bit of a pain. Perfect. Now it's working. Right. Well, that was easier than normal. Right. Yeah, this time I was a little bit more... I sorted out the setup a little bit better than last week, because that was a disaster. Just fingers crossed this time we don't have a billion drop frames. So yeah, at least this time you didn't have like a billion notifications saying, hey, I'm live, hey, I'm live, hey, I'm live. So yeah, I'll just while we wait for everyone to kind of get in, I don't want to kind of get on with things too early. Yeah, I will tweet out that I'm live, of course, just so then everyone can get in. So before I begin, what did you all think of the episode? Because I have my own thoughts, and I guess you all have your own thoughts, and it'll be interesting to see how it all matches up. Okay, so let me just tweet out that I'm live, and then we'll get underway. Because I have a couple of things to say about that episode. It seems like most people liked it, which is interesting. Obviously, I don't really have a frame of reference until I go on here, because I only see what my Discord people think, and then obviously now what chat's saying. So yeah, like I said, I'll just tweet out that I'm live, and then we'll get properly underway of everything. Okay. Right, so that is done. So this, of course, is my live review of the second 60th anniversary special, Wild Blue Yonder. And before I start this stream, let me thank my Bantam level patrons, Fallon Cortez and Nathan Gibson. Thank you so much for your support. But yes, no. So obviously at the end of last week, this will be a spoiler review. I will preface that just in case anyone somehow believes it won't be. This is going to be a heavily spoilerific review, so you've been warned. So yes, at the end of last week, the Star Beast, Donna threw a coffee onto the TARDIS, everything blew up, and they got yeeted off into time and space. You know how it is, right? So then this episode starts off in the past with Isaac Newton, and they land in Trieste. Russ Cedar really hyped us up as being like a really funny scene with an apple, and it was just kind of like, it's just kind of there. It was, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't really a fan of it. I also not sure how I feel about them like casting like changing the race of an established historical figure. That just kind of feels weird to me, but not in like a woke brigade way, but just like a bit like did they have to do that? Don't know. But yeah, it was just like I guess a weird thing to start the episode with. Sorry, did I say his name wrong? Oh, is it people being like, oh, it's not him? Yeah, it was a weird intro. Yeah, I also don't like the whole gravity mavity thing. That's gonna be weird because now they have to stick with that. Because they stuck with that throughout the episode. And then I was watching Doctor Who Unleashed a minute ago, and even that was kind of like calling out how weird the joke was and how it didn't really make any sense. They were going to say like, oh, like, you know, I think David Tennant was having to try and explain it to Catherine Tate, and then they kept cutting back to the host being like, do you understand any of this? And I'm just thinking, like, why make it canon that gravity doesn't exist just for a joke? Weird, but it's a nitpick. It is just a nitpick. But yes, that is what I thought of the intro. So then we get into underway with the actual episode, and that's the Doctor and Donna arriving on that spaceship. And I'm in very mixed thoughts on the spaceship design. I loved like the general look of it. The general look of it was really nice. It was designed well. I liked the practical aspects of it, but I really hated the CGI of that spaceship. It looked so bad. The spaceship just looked awful. Honestly, like, you look at the Unleashed filming where they just had the cat out of the hallway, and it looked straight up Star Wars prequels, just like at least build a little bit more. Like, I understand they want to stretch and stuff. It just looked so bad. Like, yeah, no, like some point, I literally, my first thought when I saw that set was it was Spy Kids. It literally reminded me of like Spy Kids 3D, or was it Spy Kids Game Over, where it's all just pure green screen. It looked awful. And, it's kind of what you would expect from like 2005, not really from now. So it's kind of weird that it looked worse than some previous Doctor Who green screening has looked. And yeah, I wasn't a fan of the effects there. But I'll get more into the effects stuff later, because I'm trying to kind of go it in order. So I liked the interplay at the beginning, kind of when the Doctor and Donna arrive in the spaceship. They kind of have some nice interplay, some nice jokes and stuff. And I liked the idea of the Hads taking the TARDIS out of the equation and the sonic screwdriver out of the equation, because obviously one of my big complaints in the Star Beast was how the sonic screwdriver just did everything. And now, they got rid of that for this episode, so he couldn't just, wave it around to solve everything. And that was quite unique. That was an interesting way to get rid of it. And then, again, with the TARDIS, and I liked how they reacted. Like, Donna was genuinely very upset about having not being able to get home because she has family and all that. It felt like a very realistic character, fear to have. She lost her family, she's lost her daughter, she can't get back to them. She was very worried, and that felt like very good, consistent writing with this newer Donna that we have. I liked that aspect. But yeah, I also liked the end of the universe setting. That was really nice. The kind of the end of the universe is something. It kind of gave me vibes of in Flux, where they went to the crossing of the universe, and it was just this big empty void. And yeah, like that was a quite nice setting, this whole end of the universe. Very mysterious, this whole idea of, they've never been there before. And yeah, I really liked that end of the universe stuff. Very well visually realized. Edge of the universe, end of the universe. They use them interchangeably. It's weird, but yeah, that was a very nice reveal when they said that. It's end by distance. They literally say like this is basically the edge of the universe, like physically the edge of the universe. There's nothing beyond. Although actually, kind of weirdly, the Flux showed us that there is something beyond the edge of the universe. Forget it. It's just nitpicky. But yeah, I loved the setting of the end of the universe. I just wish they could have explored the villains a little bit better. I really loved the idea of the doppelgangers. The idea of the doppelgangers, amazing concept. Brilliant concept. Akin to the Midnight Entity, but a more physical version of that. That's the great reveal. I clocked it immediately when the Doctor looked in, kind of like looking at that emoji where he just stands there. Kind of, and I was just like, yeah, no, that ain't the Doctor. And that was interesting. But the main thing I didn't like about this episode was just the horrendous CGI of the villains. I didn't know whether they were trying to play it for comedy or like weird body horror, because it just reminded me of The Flesh, or there was something else it reminded me of. I can't remember it now. It just gave me that Lazarus Experiment style weird goofy CGI that took me out of it, because it's like, were they going for the goofiness, or was this meant to be actually scary? It just didn't really work for me, especially when so they had that goofy as hell chase sequence where they're getting bigger and bigger, and then they suddenly, the Doctor and Donna escape, and suddenly they're trying to play it all seriously and scary again. And it's just like, we just had these people running around like Mr. Fantastic, or that was it the daughter from The Incredibles, where they can manipulate their body. We just had them running around like a crazy campy villain, and then suddenly they're just like, oh yeah, no, suddenly it's scary now, look how sinister this is. And it's just like, well, we just saw that, and they're not really addressing how goofy that was. They're trying to act like that was scary when it clearly wasn't. I know Doctor Who has always been campy. I don't want people to misconstrue that. Doctor Who is campy. It's always combined goofiness with horror. But we've seen time and time again it has done that very effectively. I don't think it did that here. A lot of people are saying, it was meant to be goofy, it was meant to be a homage, but it just felt like such a tonal clash, and that didn't really help me get engaged with it, because I was just like, again, what are they going for here? It just felt so strange to me, just what the tone was, and I just couldn't really get into it with how silly they looked even for Doctor Who standards. Yeah, like there were times where they looked creepy, and again, the idea was great, especially when you had the Doctor and Donna each trying to work out whether the other one was one of the villains. And, they were having all these ways of being like, "Oh, were you the villain?" And this is why I'm not. You always with a doppelganger story, you always have to have that. You always have to have the tests to be. Are you real? Are you the villain? And they took that in a nice way. Like they used that to address things like Donna's life without the Doctor, or the Doctor's backstory and his experiences with the Flux. And I thought that was a good way to have those character beats, because they had the memories of the people they're impersonating. I just think there were so many times where the CGI, like body horror of the villains, just fell really flat and was just... it just didn't come across in like a positive way to me. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's one of the things going to be mixed on, because again, like I mentioned, Doctor Who has always been goofy. It has always had some goofy villains, but I feel like it's unfair for everyone to constantly rip apart the gangers in Rebel Flesh and Almost People, but then give this a pass where they're both kind of the same body horror. They're both the same idea, and you can't say one's goofy and the other's not. They're either both bad or both good, and I feel like they're both bad. And that's just my personal thought. Because it built up that it had a very slow build up. They kind of suggested all these mysteries on the spaceship, and it was very, very slow build up, which kind of had me at some points and lost me at other points. And then it just felt like the pacing was a little bit off at the start. It was very slow and unengaging to begin with, and I like character pieces. I wrote a whole 50-minute video essay about Heaven Sent and how good that was, but it's just like it lost me. It took me a long time to get into it, and then it got me into it, and then it lost me again with the outdated CGI, because again, like someone in chat pointed out, back then it was forgivable to have CGI like that, but now they have so much higher budget. I feel like they could have done better with that stuff. Right, so what else did I write down here? Okay, like I said, one thing I really hated, obviously, was the big chase scene at the end. That was so goofy. That was so awful. Like, it was, again, so spiky. It's just awkward running on green screen. The scaling wasn't accurate a bunch of the time. And, it's just weird. What do you mean stop moaning, I'll never be happy? I was supportive of the Star Beast. I'm just calling out what I think was a weaker episode. If CGI is bad, you got to call it out as being bad. They got money. They can make better CGI. They have done in the last decade. It just looks really, really strange to me that ending was so bad, like visually, and it was so goofy. Like, especially like the worst thing about the ending for me was how they had that whole emotional, oh, Donna's gonna die, she's gonna die in the explosion, the Doctor picked the wrong one idea. But it just doesn't work, because you can't suspend your disbelief for thinking, oh no, Donna's actually gonna die here, because it's clearly, obviously, they're not going to. It's just, I don't know. It's I just could not, I couldn't suspend my disbelief to believe that Donna was actually gonna die there. So the ending felt a bit contrived, and just suddenly, the Hads is gone now, despite the ship blowing up, so the TARDIS is perfectly fine to return, even though that's more hazard because the ship's going to blow up. It just felt like a very contrived, convenient ending, and I wasn't a fan of that either. As controversial it is, I personally think it was a little bit worse than the Star Beast. I just think it had lower lows. Like, Star Beast was just kind of consistently average, whereas this had, like, this dropped down a little bit more. And I just didn't enjoy it as much. It took me longer to get into it. I just didn't gel with it, which is a shame, because some of the ideas were amazing. Some of the ideas were so good. I really liked some of the ideas, like the doppelganger stuff. I just did not really vibe with it for so long. It just, like, I know the hands and legs were prosthetic, but that doesn't stop them looking goofy. especially when she first shows them up. I laughed. I outright laughed. I don't know if it was meant to be a big laugh. I meant to be like and so weird. But yeah, like it's just so difficult to judge this and the Star Beast because they're very different episodes. This saved itself closer towards the end, but then also had a weekend just like the Star Beast. But yeah, it just didn't really hit me in the same kind of way because Star Beast, it felt like a special. It had this big ambitious narrative, and it had nice things going on in it, like the Meep was a good villain. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Andrew Luke. £5, that's big. Yeah, I agree. Oh yeah, sound mixing was awful as well. I had that with Star Beast along with that. I don't know if that was like just an issue with my TV or whatever, but yeah, the sound mixing was kind of atrocious. But hey, I guess they're just trying to stay faithful to series 2, aren't they, with awful sound mixing? But yeah, it didn't feel like a special. It just felt like a normal episode of the show. And yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the villains, like the writing of the villains was amazing. The writing of the villains was so good. It was just how they were realized physically that it just didn't work. Yeah, I don't know. It's just the doppelganger stuff, fascinating to me. It was a great idea. I just kind of think it messed up with the way they realized the slack jaw, like long arm things. It was that was the weakest point, was the effects work. I feel like they were trying to go for an end of the world style thing where they have like they show off all these effects, like the spaceship moving, like its interior and everything, but it just looked so. It just completely did not match what was like the physical, practical stuff that was going on. It was so jarringly out of place that again, it looks a bit like Spy Kids. That yeah, I didn't vibe with the look of it. It's just one of those weird things where it's like it was like middling to me. I liked the end with Wilfred, obviously when they escape and get back to Earth. I liked that element. Obviously earlier in the story that had been seeded with Donna saying, oh, my whole family's going to wait there, and Rose will eventually move on. Sean won't, he'll always be upset, but Wilf will be there every day. And then at the end, that's exactly what happens. It was a nice way to set up Wilf's return, and it was a nice moment seeing them to reunite. But yeah, I didn't hate this episode. I don't want anyone to misinterpret that. I didn't hate it. I just think it was just a bit meh. Like, it was just kind of average. Like I said, if this was a normal episode of like a series, say if this was episode 3 of series 14, I'd be like, oh, that was fun, that was great, that was good. But this is like a big marquee special, and it just didn't feel like that. It was just kind of like they dropped the ball on a lot of it. I mean, Star Beast was far from perfect. I don't want anyone to think that. That was it. That was also kind of average. This is just kind of... So, if Star Beast was above average, this is kind of just plain average. There's too much pulling it down. I think it's just got bigger peaks and valleys. The villain stuff was really interesting, but held back by its effects. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I was a bit let down because the team had built it up as this big thing. They built up this amazing, mind-blowing special that not even leakers could leak. So you're expecting something big. I wasn't expecting like a big multi-doctor story. I wasn't expecting the next Heaven Sent. I was just expecting something more than just a bit of a run around on a spaceship. Oh god, I'm Chris Chibnall. Oh no, I have become the thing I swore to destroy. But yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those things where I think people act like I hated it. I just was a little bit disappointed, where it had so much potential, so much amazing potential, and it just didn't realize that, which is why I was disappointed. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, some people in chat are pointing out that it was just kind of time for the characters and like Doctor and Donna to hang out, and I did like that aspect. I just feel like, we didn't really need a whole episode of that. Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. I know it's like a popular episode. It's probably going to be like the favorite of the like everyone's going to say, oh, this was the best of the three, but I just found it like, yeah, I don't know. It wasn't bad. It's still worth watching. I'd still recommend giving it a go. I'll certainly say in certain elements, like it's clearly going to be a lot less controversial than the Star Beast, at least, but people will still find ways to make it about politics, mainly because of the thing at the start. I see a lot of people are upset about the Doctor saying Isaac Newton's hot, which, you know, the Doctor can say that. Again, you know, a lot of people are saying, well, the Doctor used to be a woman. If you're like that narrow thinking, then yeah, of course the Doctor would still think men are attractive or whatever. But, you know, the actor was conventionally cast to be a somewhat attractive looking man. As a straight man, I can admit that he was conventionally attractive, but he wasn't like hot. It was just such a weird thing for people to bring up. I don't know. I just still found it weird that was the intro. It just had nothing to do with the rest of it. Actually, didn't it? I swear they mentioned it towards right near the end. They mentioned the Mavity thing again. But yeah, it's just tricky that the world, like, it's all just gonna be, oh, you loved it, you hated it, you loved it, you hated it. Feels like no one can just have like a middling idea of a Doctor Who story anymore. Like, I feel like you can never just say like, it was alright, it was fine. Also, no, I don't support Chelsea. I support Man United, who are currently playing right now, and I'm with you guys instead. We're probably losing anyway. Let me check the score. That was 0-0. So my happiness survives another day. For the moment, anyway. But yeah, I mean, the ending had a little bit of a tease towards the toy maker, kind of like because she had that very on the nose Davis style tease where the Doctor was like, "Oh, I feel like I might have let something through. Oh, must have been nothing." Yeah, it's very much like Series 2, where it's like, a storm's coming, and it's like, oh, I wonder what that means. But yeah, that was kind of what it is. I have seen the preview for the Giggle. It looks fun. It looks more like a special. It looks like a big, explosive, climactic story. It's hard to enjoy it fully knowing certain things from leaks. So it's kind of tricky to be like, not quite sure if I can be as hyped for it. It's kind of like how I was going into the Series 12 finale, where I knew what was going to happen and it made me more anxious. Yeah, I think people also forget that 14 is a unique incarnation. He's not just the 10th Doctor again, so obviously he's going to have different mannerisms. I think they kind of shone through a little bit more here than the Star Beast. In my Star Beast review, I was a little bit critical of 14th Doctor just seeming like the 10th Doctor again. You know, it very much came across to me that it was just 10th Doctor with a new coat. But this episode, he really did seem different. He had some different responses to actions. I liked the whole try not to think moment where they were trying to stop the villains by not thinking about them, and then the Doctor couldn't because there's too many mysteries. And yeah, like the whole, I don't like the ending. Like, the ending felt such like a cop out again, so cheap, being the whole Donna's gonna die. Seriously, guys, she's gonna die. Like, it was a great twist to have him pick the wrong Donna. That was interesting. That I liked that idea. But then they just dragged it out so much, being like, oh, you know, she's gonna die, she's gonna die, she's gonna die. And then she doesn't die, and it's like, oh, what a surprise. There's just no tension there when you know the character isn't gonna die. Just on any level, you don't expect that to happen. She could have died in the Star Beast and it would work, but then when it's in the middle of the trilogy, it's not going to happen, is it? It just felt such a cheap ending, and then the Doctor just comes back to save her anyway. Again, like I mentioned near the start, the whole Hads thing was that the TARDIS couldn't appear again, but then the TARDIS appears back to save the Doctor so then he can escape when there's more danger than ever. That just didn't make any sense to me. The bomb idea in general was a nice twist, kind of explaining why things were turning around and why that robot was slowly walking. That was a nice little twist. It was turning into a bomb to blow up the villains or something. But again, it's just the way it was all paid off just felt really weak to me and kind of contrived. And yeah. I mean, yeah, there's probably going to be a big debate about the Isaac Newton casting. I don't care too much. I just think it's weird that they did that. I just think it was a bit like, really? Just like a minor nitpick I have. Just don't know why they felt the need to do that. Just personal preference. But yeah, no, like I said, I liked that he picked the wrong Donna, like, because it was good. It showed convincing, and yeah, it was a very interesting twist. It's just the way they had the actual Donna gonna die that I didn't like, because it was such a bad way to wrap things up. I don't think there's a connection to Midnight. I saw two main speculations throughout the episode on Discord or whatever, where it was either going to be the Boneless or the Midnight Entity, and I'm glad it was neither. I wouldn't have minded if it was the Boneless, but yeah, I wouldn't have wanted it to be a Midnight Entity, so I'm glad they didn't. They can't make monsters too horrible. There's a way to make things scary without making them too goofy. Doctor Who's done that so many times before. Things have been way scarier in Doctor Who itself in the last 10 years without resorting to that. That was a little bit too, like, you can't take that seriously on any level. Like, again, refer back to the Flesh two-part. It was the exact same style of horror that falls flat. You just think they would have learned from that. And yeah, exactly, people point out stuff like Waters of Mars. You know, you can have very creepy, terrifying monsters without them being weird, elasticy things that are all goofing about with flying arms and growing bigger. Like, it just did not look good to me. It did not look good. It was really embarrassing to look like. That kind of CGI, again, people are pointing out, it was fine 15 years ago. But now you'd think they'd be able to do that a little bit better. Make it a bit more convincing. I mean, yeah, that's a fair point if people were scared. It's just like, I just think, yeah, because I thought it was going to be, the Exorcist will, I guess, would be scary, but then, like, the moment you realise how badly they green screen masked on David Tennant's face, it takes you out of it, because you can see all the weird artifacting around it and how the lighting does not match at all, and it's just like, ugh. But then again, yeah, you know, just kids won't know that, so that's good for them. Campy scary. Yeah, no, like I've said, Doctor Who is always campy scary. It's done that so many times and really well. This one didn't land for me personally. Yeah. Yeah. If you're going to do psychological horror and bring new viewers, don't make the audience have to have done homework watching a prior season with a different Doctor. Yeah, I kind of get that. I don't think it was like, I don't know if it was like a full-on psychological horror though. But yeah, so how is this 60th anniversary? I mean, there's 3 of them. It's a trilogy. This isn't the 60th anniversary special. There's a trilogy of anniversary specials. So, I don't know anything about Attack on Titan. I don't know what that refers to at the moment. Best episode, that's got to be Rage Bait, surely. There's no way that's the best since Seventh Sen. I just keep seeing this thing of Doctor Who has not been strong on visual effects. Like, that excuse is fine 15 years ago. Like, since then, since like the first Davis era, they've massively improved. They've massively improved their visual effects department. They have such a higher budget. If they can't make that look good, then they shouldn't, because goofy CGI like that just looks like it just looks like Spy Kids. There are so many better ways to exploit, like, to do that. Seeing that giant. Yeah, that's fair, I guess, because Resident Anime got massive giants or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really watch anime. I would say, obviously, to say this episode was average or bad, it's still a massive step up of what we've had over, like, since the, like, from the Chibnall era. It's better than most of those still. Like, I'm a harsh critic of Doctor Who. I've literally grown up watching it. I kind of know it inside and out. I'm very particular about what Doctor Who I like. So these are all just my personal thoughts on whether it lives up to what I personally want out of Doctor Who. And yeah, from an older viewer perspective, the effects are what took me out of it. And it's so hard to kind of get back into it when they've had that goofiness, because you don't know what tone they're going for. But yeah, like it was still better than the majority of the 13th Doctor era, and that's not me being a hater, that's just my personal opinion. So it was still, on the whole, a decent-ish episode, you know. Again, I want to preface that I liked a lot about it. I liked the stuff with Tennant and Tate and their character moments and their character writing. I like how they got rid of the TARDIS and the sonic screwdriver to make things a little bit more creative. I liked the idea of the villains in concept. I liked the setting of abandoned spaceship at the end of the universe. It's just when it gets going, it just lost me and took a while to get me back. And then, you know, when I thought I was back into it, it lost me again. So that's just why I'm not hugely sold on it. But yeah, as a whole, it was better written than a lot of the Chibnall era. There was much less, like, despite there being a lot of exposition in the story, it didn't feel like it dragged, you know, them explaining what might have happened to the pilot. They did that kind of reveal with the villains in there. It was like a back and forth. They only worked out why the pilot yeeted themselves out of the ship because the villains were egging them on. So that was an interesting way to deliver that exposition. It wasn't just the Doctor standing there going to Donna, like, here's the thing, like, here's what happened, here's why this happened, this is why. So yeah, this felt, in some aspects, it was a lot better than Star Beast. It's just so tricky to weigh them against each other. I just don't think it was top tier enough to overcome Star Beast. I feel like I felt a lot more with Star Beast. Maybe part of that is the nostalgic hit of Tennant and Tate reuniting, and now that they have, it's less special again. Maybe that's part of it, but yeah. And yeah, no, exactly. As Carl Pepper says in chat, they actually explained that Flux had an impact. I've always been vocal that I didn't mind Flux as a season. I thought that was a decent series. But like, the main problem was how it just ended, like, and they didn't resolve what happened with all the stars and the planets that got destroyed. And in here, they do acknowledge that. They say how the Doctor felt like more, like, you know, you could see the guilt and the shame the Doctor had of having that effect, because it was all engineered to kill the Doctor. So the Doctor took all these people down in collateral damage almost. It's just they still didn't explain the state of the universe. I think I remember when I was making my video essay about the two universe thing from Flux, I think I remember coming across like one throwaway line in Flux where it's like, oh, reset, like she just reversed time back so it all reset, which was unsatisfying. But yeah, that this had some nice acknowledgement of the Flux. And as much as I hate the Timeless Child twist, at least they're being consistent with it and still hinting towards it. So, you know, they're not just pretending it didn't exist. They're not trying to undo it. They're still acknowledging it slightly, because once that's there, you can't just take it back. You've got to try and mold it into a way that's more palatable and stuff. You can't just remove it from the existence of Doctor Who. And yeah, like people say, you know, if half the universe is still destroyed, what's there? Like, if there's just all this desolation and wasteland still, surely we should be exploring that a little bit more. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else I haven't already said about the episode. This time I tried to kind of write my notes in chronological order so I could go through them as the episode progressed. But I feel like I had less notes on this one than the previous one. I guess maybe because things were so much more contained, and like it wasn't this sprawling special, it was more contained. So it's like the main points are the Doctor and Donna, the effects, the spaceship, the villains, and then it's like there's not much else to talk about. But yeah, like I said, I think I would have preferred this if it was just a regular episode rather than like a big advertised special, and the hype didn't help it at all. Like, that's mainly, yes, we can remove Dimensions in Time. That is not canon. That is never canon. Dimensions in Time does not exist. But yeah, what was I saying? I've completely forgotten. Oh Well, the half-human thing you can ignore because that was the TV movie, which was in like its own era. You don't have to acknowledge that movie. The show kind of acted like that never really happened. So that's an easy one to avoid with. Something that happened in an actual series finale of New Who, you can't just sidestep. You kind of have to, like I said, take that and mold it into something a little bit less destructive or controversial, which I think is what Davis is trying to do. He's trying to change it a little bit and give it a bit more of the interesting levity. What's the word I mean? Kind of the gravity of such a twist. They didn't ignore the movie. Well, yeah, they didn't ignore the movie's existence, but they basically acted like, you know, they acknowledged that the Doctor was the Ninth Doctor, but they just didn't really pay attention to the movie, so they didn't have to incorporate the half-human thing. But yeah, like, I guess this is another example of one of those episodes where it gets hyped up so much by the fans that like people can't really enjoy it as much as they expected to. I didn't really think it was going to be something huge personally. Again, I thought it was going to be a little bit more than just a normal run around the spaceship, because a lot of people, the way they were being so secretive about it and the way Davis was talking up like the episode up so much as if it was going to be a groundbreaking piece of television that he was really glad didn't get leaked at all, it just makes me think like it's just all this, isn't it, from Davis regarding all his episodes. Like, it just reminds me of how in the Chibnall era every villain was, this villain's going to destroy the universe, or this villain's the most dangerous villain the Doctor has ever faced. It just reminds me of stuff like that, where it's like, you know, Davis overhypes a lot of his stuff too much, especially in the social media age, where that stuff becomes way too rampant. You know, you've got to try and contain that a little bit, because people are going to be a bit too exciting. Yeah, I do agree with what someone just said about it. Felt like a little bit more like filler or whatever, you know. It didn't really like progress anything further. It was just kind of spinning in place to, again, it was a character piece. And I know it was a character piece. I appreciate it as a character piece. I did like some of the stuff it did as a character piece. It just felt like, again, you have 3 specials to celebrate 60th. This one just seemed like, you know, because the first 2 are heavily connected. They're these big scale things. This is just like just a weird deviation from point A to point B. Midnight wasn't filler. That's very different. Like, this episode, like, where it's a special, it just seemed like it didn't fit with the others. How are you going to have filler and only 3 episodes? I mean, this, where the 2 on the other side are connected and this one isn't, you know. It's just one of those things. Again, I'm not saying that's a reason it's bad. I don't know what you mean, Freezer, about Ben 10 thing. I don't know which commission video you're talking about. I mean, Ben 10 is a kid's show, just like My Little Pony, so I guess it's the same thing, isn't it? Like, if you like Ben 10, then you're just the same as someone that likes My Little Pony. That's probably all I meant by it, but I can't remember exactly what it meant. Yeah, the only thing similar to Midnight was the idea of the villains being like doppelganger style copying things. That's the only similarity to Midnight. And Doctor Who has done copying like doppelganger stuff before, so, you know, it's not really anything to do with Midnight. Any word on how long the gig will be? I'm pretty sure that's going to be like the same length. So yeah, it's just such a tricky episode to talk about. I feel like it's kind of weird because I was going and expecting there to be so much to talk about, so much rich character depth, so much interesting things, and so much to talk about and so much to dive into. But there's just it's a really kind of basic story when you boil it down. There's not much to talk about. It kind of just felt like a Doctor Who novel, you know. Like, you get the new series Adventures. I remember I read through the whole Davis era, one of those, that it just kind of felt like that, where they walk around a bit, they talk, suddenly these hard to visually realize villains show up. They have all these abilities that seem terrifying in writing, but then, they just stop. And then, that's what you get in your average Doctor Who book, and that's kind of what this was. And yeah, like, it's a weird thing is I tempered my expectations. I tried not to expect too much, and even still I was kind of a little bit let down. I was expecting something a little bit crazier. Yeah. I feel like it would have worked better as a Series 14 episode with Ncuti and Gibson. I feel like that would have worked better than, like, we have 3 episodes with the 14th Doctor and Donna, and I just feel like they could have had something a little bit better and meatier than this. That's mainly why I feel disappointed. It's a decent story. It just feels more skippable, I guess. So yeah, it's just a tricky thing to kind of enjoy. Favorite part of the special and least favorite part? It's tricky to say least favorite part, whether it was the like the effects of the villains or the ending. Like, one of those two would be my least favorite parts, like the ending of like the whole fake out Donna death thing. I really didn't like that. But then the villains were also really bad effects work. Well, not bad effects work, like the practical effects were fine, just didn't fit the tone, and then the CGI effects of them were also goofy as hell. But the best part about it, I feel like, best parts were either the setting and the practical effects of the spaceship, or the character stuff with the Doctor and Donna. I feel like those were probably the highlights for me. And yeah, I agree with someone in chat there, where like I'm more excited for the stuff after these specials. I'm more excited for Series 14 onwards, or sorry, Season 1, which is so I think I'm just going to make a whole video about how it's so weird that they're basically rebooting Doctor Who when it's only been like a month since the last episode. Not even that, it will have been 2 weeks between episodes when they suddenly reboot Doctor Who and give it Season 1 name again to make things all confusing. And yeah, it just doesn't really make any sense to me that they're rebooting it and calling it Season 1 now. Yeah, and also with it's a very clear indicator again to imply things, the direction things have been leaked as going. It's a very clear reboot of what they're doing. They're very much making a clear divide between the 14th and 15th Doctors, and I'm not a fan of what I've read. I'm not a fan, and it's not going to go down well. And I'm just tempted to make a video about it, just exploring why they don't need to do that, why it's unnecessary, why it devalues stuff going forward and devalues the future of the show, because it kind of sets such a hard cut between. Oh yeah, there is an in-universe reason. Trust me, there's an in-universe reason for the numbering change, and it's not good. But I don't want to spoil anyone anything, so I won't say. If you know, you know. It's been heavily talked about everywhere else. If you know, you know. So I'm not going to be the one to spoil anyone for what happens. Doctor Who was an educational from the 60s. You know, it started being educational like immediately, right? Doctor Who tried to be educational with cavemen, and they realised that was not working, and then they went more entertainment based. You know, Doctor Who hasn't been educational like in like a purely scientific, historical way like for ages. It's always been educational to a level. There have been educational elements in there the whole time, because the BBC literally has a government required edict that's to inform, educate and entertain. It has to, every show or every property the BBC does has to tick either like at least one or like all of those boxes. You know, it's public thing. You go on their website, it's in their mandate that they have to fulfill those categories. So Doctor Who always has to educate, inform and entertain. And, you know, this did. I guess you can say it educated you on gravity and how that happened. It entertained with all the goofy ass effects. And then, educate, inform, and then informed you, I don't know, inform and educate are kind of weird where they're similar things now. So, but yeah, it's fine. You know, this episode's no less educational than pretty much anything else in the Davis era. So, education can mean moral lessons. I mean, there were moral lessons of like, I guess, trust and identity and what makes someone a person, and how you can trust your friend even if they're their their face is being stolen. Have I ever seen Classic Who? I've seen most of Classic Who, not all of it, almost all of it. Favorite Classic Who story for me is probably, I want to say Ark in Space. It's one of the first I saw, so I may be biased there where I've got rose tinted glasses because I saw it when I was quite young. But Ark in Space is very creepy. And I kind of I had a distant hope that this may be kind of like a recreation sequel kind of reimagining of that episode when I saw some pictures of the spaceship and thinking, oh, the goo and things like that. So, but yeah, it wasn't. But yeah, Ark in Space is probably my favourite Classic Who story. I know it's a basic bitch choice, but it was one of the first I saw, so that's my favourite one. Yeah, I guess this was another Doctor Who Among Us. They love to do Amogus and Doctor Who. There have been so many cases. Every Doctor has an Amogus storyline. If you want to go watch the episode, but don't miss the live stream. I mean, it's a VOD. Like, these live streams go up on a VOD anyway. You can watch the episode and then watch this after I've done streaming, so I'd always recommend doing that. I like, I prefer, I guess it's a problem with my reviews is I always expect that people have seen the episode I'm reviewing, so I don't like do too much plot recapping. I just kind of talk about themes and everything like that. But yeah, I guess some people don't see it. Just a rehash of Midnight. I don't think it was a rehash of Midnight. I think literally the only comparisons there was the copying, but they didn't even copy that much. They didn't do the dialogue. Doctor Who was done copies so many times. Even back in The Chase, the Daleks made a copy of the Doctor to try and kill them, wherever it was. That was it back in the 60s. That was like 65, wasn't it? So, just because there's duplication or doppelgangers going on doesn't make it a copy of Midnight. Weaponization of Doctor's intelligence is another Midnight-like element, I guess, but again, they've done that so many times with doppelganger stories. It existed before Midnight, it's existed after Midnight. Midnight is amazing. It's my favorite modern Doctor Who story. Just doesn't mean that any other copying story is suddenly a copy of Midnight, ironic as it is. Is Doctor Who becoming too emotional? No. Doctor Who's always been emotional in the modern era. People always say like Doctor Who's too emotional, too dramatic, but Classic Who was from a very different time. The entire media landscape changed between 1989 and 2005. The types of shows and types of drama were very different. So Doctor Who has to be more emotional and dramatic now to be fulfilling. You can't just be very unemotional. I mean, the Doctor himself. I mean, you're going to have some incarnations who are going to be more emotional than others. A thing they're doing with the 14th Doctor is showing how he's got more mannerisms of, his incarnations between 10 and 14 to show how he's changed a little bit and evolved with some different stuff. My chat seems to be lagging on my stream here, but not on my back end, so I'm going to be reading stream off there while this updates or whatever. I don't know how to fix it. Okay, maybe it'll work now. I don't know. Underwhelming because I think that sums up what I was thinking of. Someone in chat, Stephen Legrisley, says that the concept doesn't fill an hour, and that makes sense. It kind of reminds me of the Chibnall era where they got this big increase to 50 minutes rather than 45, and so many episodes just didn't need that extra time, and that is kind of what I'm thinking here. So why is my chat box not working? There we go. Now it's updated. Perfect. Just made it seem like everyone left there, but they hadn't. They're all still chatting away. Disney would request toning down the scares. I know Davis implied something like that when they were filming, that there was some sort of back and forth to make things a little bit less dark about one of the episodes, but they don't have that much involvement yet. I'm almost convinced that one day they will. That it's a slow takeover probably. First it starts with streaming rights, then it's, hey, let us fund your show for you, and then it's, hey, we're funding half your show, and let's just take it by the rights, and then that's how it happens. It's been done before, and they'll probably do it to Doctor Who as well. If it's a success on Disney Plus, they'll probably try and steal it from the BBC, which is terrifying, and hopefully it doesn't happen. Probably can't, but God knows how. But yeah, Disney doesn't have an input at the moment. luckily, as far as we know. I mean, they do have some funding input, I guess, because it's a bit of a co-production thing, but it's not enough to creative control yet. Felt like a Sarah Jane Adventures monster, slightly less threatening. Yeah, I can see that. No, I did like some of the returning music in this story, where they use stuff like this Gallifrey and some more leitmotifs returning. That's nice. But I would rather hope that they try and make more new tracks rather than just refraining old ones from the previous Davis era. I know people like to say the 50th only celebrating New Who, but it doesn't feel like a celebration of anything. It's just a regular episode. No, it celebrates New Who, or it celebrates all of Doctor Who with the story it tells. It culminates the Time War, which is New Who's big, like, plot thread. And then obviously it brings back a classic villain. It introduces like a new Doctor for the Time War. It brings back the Curator. There are celebratory aspects in there. You know, it's not like the Five Doctors, you know, but it's still celebratory. It still has stuff to do with the anniversary. I think it's episode 8. People thinking they ought to have killed Donna off midway through the 60th anniversary confused me. I didn't think they should have killed her off. I think they just shouldn't have had that scene in the first place. You know, I think it's just cheap drama. It's just such cheap drama to be like, one of the main characters is going to die, we swear, and then doesn't. I don't have an issue with how they're celebrating the 60th, personally. What I might have preferred is if they had it as, obviously, Starbeast, expanded media villain, then, you know, the Giggle is a classic Who villain, and it would have been nice if, for this episode, it was like a returning New Who villain. That way, each anniversary episode celebrates some aspect of the show. You know, that I think that would have been a little bit more interesting. But I've always pointed out that 60th anniversary is not a big year. We don't need like a huge thing. We don't need the next day of the Doctor, because 50th anniversary is a lot more important than the 60th. It's just, yeah. Going to get an answer on why regenerating the previous face. They basically implied that not really. Actually, no, I think that was the outfit thing they implied. There wasn't really going to be an answer. I think they'll probably just say it was something to do with the toy maker. I don't think it got leaked as to why they changed the face, but it probably just explained as the toy maker shenanigans. Donna will probably die in the next episode. I don't think so. I think I remember reading in leaks that something implied in the Star Beast is going to happen. If you know, you know, but... They could have had a doppelganger change into older version of the Doctor. That could have been interesting. Probably a bit out of their writing and budget range or whatever. Or, I mean, yeah, but it could have worked, but it wouldn't really work as a doppelganger, because, like, actually no. Saying that, it could have been fun at the start if they were trying to copy him, but because the Doctor's had so many faces, they messed up, and you know they had a different version of the Doctor instead. That could have been fun, but yeah, it's not an easy thing to implement, and you don't have to have a bunch of different Doctors. Yeah, you don't have to have a bunch of different Doctors to make a special for the anniversary. I think a lot of fans have been kind of spoilt by the big anniversary multi-Doctor specials, but yeah, you don't have to have that. Wonder if this anniversary would have been better if it was just about the Toymaker stuff, because the first two episodes feel like filler to get to them. I guess they try that they might incorporate it all as a wider scheme. Like the boss thing from Starbeast is implied that David Tennant doesn't even know what that's going on. And then it's like, I guess the Toymaker was set up here with the whole I might have let something through because superstition at the end of the universe, where of reality things, you know. But multi-Doctor stuff, yeah, it would have been a bit too fan servicey. Like, maybe it would have been fun to have one cameo, say, I guess it might have been fun, like, as controversial it would have been, because the most hated Doctor is back. It could have been fun if the doppelgangers, like, even briefly appeared as Jodie, because they were like, wait, hang on a minute, because much like the psychic paper, it's still catching up to the regeneration. That could have been a little fun, quick throwaway gag. but I guess they wouldn't have wanted to do that for many reasons. Yeah. I think I've kind of said everything I need to say. It's going to be probably an easier episode to talk about than Star Beast was for my review on Thursday. So that's at least better, because I got a busy week this week. I can't spend too much time making this review like I did last week. So, the content creation god smiled down upon me a little bit. So can we get a like in chat for an easier to make review? I hate that I just had to say that. I hate that you have to say that. I'm never going to be happy about that. Please make a video on season 1. See, this is a complicated thing. Do you mean the original season 1 or the new season 1? That's why I hate this idea, because you say, I like season 1 of Doctor Who. They go, oh, that one with Christopher Eccleston, that one with Ncuti Gatwa, or that one with William Hartnell, because people call series 1 season 1. So we've got 3 different season 1s in Doctor Who. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be such a mess. Explaining why they're calling that. Everyone's scared of numbers these days. It's like, obviously, I don't know. I always make wrestling jokes or whatever in my channel. Like, some people get them, most people don't, because there's not much of an overlap. But they have this thing called WrestleMania, and for the first 30 years, it had a number on the end. It was like WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 10, WrestleMania 25, WrestleMania 30. And then they were like, well, if there are numbers, people are going to, like, no, numbers, they're scary. It makes it seem old rather than, historic. So they decided to just do away with the numbers entirely. And I guess that's kind of what they're doing here. They're like, well, Series 14, that makes it sound like there's so much baggage and it's so hard to get into, despite that not being the issue for the last 15 years. So yeah, for Disney, they're calling it Season 1 now, because only like these episodes onwards are going to be on Disney Plus. Because they're still tied up in, I think, HBO Max for the rest of New Who. So now they're just acting like this is basically the start of new Doctor Who. I just think it's kind of stupid to just completely rename, like, the thing. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a nitpick. Disney won't get the questions of where the rest of the seasons before and why they're not on Disney Plus. Yeah, but then that's just the thing of the tricky rights, isn't it? They shouldn't have to change the entire structure of the show just to appease Disney Plus for being a little bit confusing. Yeah, it's just weird. Doctor Who didn't need like a hard relaunch like that. It just didn't need to completely change things. And yeah, I feel like there are better ways. I didn't like, if you're going to be scared of numbers, you could at least do what Flux did and, have a title for the season, called, like, I don't know what the main plot arc of series season 1 is going to be, but sure, they can have a title like Flux for that, whereas Doctor Who Flux, not just Doctor Who 13. It makes it a little bit easier to divorce yourself from the baggage. Do I think we'll see either the Cybermen or the Daleks in the next season? And if so, which one? I don't think we're going to see either. I will say, it's so fun. Like, I saw someone point out on Twitter after Subbies, but it's so funny seeing people see Cyberdog in Camden and being like, what's this in the background? Is this an Easter egg? Is this some sort of hint towards the Cybermen or some villain? And no, it's literally just a rave shop in Camden that has these, like, statues outside it. It's just, like, so funny to see people who don't know that think it's some big Easter egg or plot element, and it's literally just part of the actual world. It's just there. Although I guess, if Russell wants to be a bit of a shitposter, he could literally have the Cyberdog villains come to life and start stomping around. That could be fun, like Stay Puft from Ghostbusters. That could be funny. Yeah. I don't think either the Cybermen or the Daleks will be coming back in Series 14. There are only 8 episodes. We already know, like, at least 2 monsters from them. Not by name or anything, but just from look. And, yeah, it doesn't seem like they're having either. Russell has simultaneously mentioned resting the Daleks, but also redesigning them. So yeah, I guess maybe he'll do what Chibnall did and have them in the specials rather than the main series. So, but I think the Cybermen probably going to get rested a lot more. Cybermen are probably going to be gone because New Who hates the Cybermen, and I've got a huge chip on my shoulder for it because Cybermen are an amazing villain, and they've never been done right in modern Doctor Who. Even Davis shat all over them in Army of Ghosts Doomsday. You know, you build up the Cybermen as this big villain, and then suddenly, whoops, no, it's the Daleks. They're the real villains. Cybermen are just chumps. Ignore them. So, yeah, there's so much you can do with Cybermen, especially as we're getting more modern. You know, like someone mentioned in chat, like AI or something like that. There are ways you can adapt them more and more for the modern era. They're way more adaptable and deep than the Daleks. So, yeah, I guess, yeah, Series 10 finale was the best Cybermen story we've got. But, yeah. But, again, that's just more using, like, common sense with the Cybermen, isn't it? We should have had that kind of storytelling from the beginning, not just one standout story. Chibnall brought in a lot of new writing talent. Will RTD be taking that risk or rely on the Who fan clique? I think because in Series 1, everyone was an existing fan who had written for stuff like Big Finish or novels. You know, he very much relied on the boys. But we've already seen that, I think is it for Series 14 or Series 15, they've brought in either like one of the writers from that Loki show. So at least we've got a new writer there. But I do worry that it's just going to be people like James Goss, who is a good writer, but, you know, just people from Big Finish who... Big Finish is already just using the same people all the time. You know, you see a new release, you're like, I wonder what, you know, brand new writers like, oh no, it's just the same people as always. Fun. I just worry that Davis is going to do that same kind of idea, and because he needs to constantly be refreshing the show and bring in new writers, new directors, new create and build up a new showrunner to take over from him. I just worry that's not going to happen. My thoughts on name dropping of the Flux. I like it. You need consequence of a big story like that. You're meant to mention those things. You can't just pretend it didn't happen. There's clearly some continuity and consequence there, which is good. That was a nice little part of the episode. I knew it was coming because months ago, in his producer's notes or something, Davis said he gave like 3 words from Special 3 or he teased something. He said like, the word flux appears in Special 2, and it was capitalized, so everyone kind of guessed it would be the flux gets acknowledged. And I think that was a nice way to acknowledge that big part of the show. Take a minute to recommend Big Finish new writers previews. Yeah, there is plenty of stuff on Big Finish. Big Finish is largely good, but it's fallen so far in the last couple of years. It's so just weak now. There's no experimentation there. It's literally just this Doctor meets this villain and Jackie Tyler's there, or this Doctor meets this villain and that one extra from I don't know, Fear Her is in there. The council guy, he has a whole crazy adventure with Torchwood. You know, it's just Big Finish is just weak now, and it's just such a shame to see how far they've fallen. Yeah, I'll be wrapping up soon, probably in another 5-10 minutes, so I'll just get a couple more general questions out there just to kind of have a bit of a more chill thing. I've kind of talked what I wanted to. I guess I didn't give it a number or a rating, did I, for Wild Blue Yonder? What did I... Because, again, like I said in my Starbeast live review, I don't really do ratings with number-based. I guess... I think I did Starbeast, I think I did a 7, I think. Or was it 6.5 or 7? So this, I guess I'd say a 6 out of 10, maybe. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think 6 out of 10 for Wild Blue Yonder. What do I think will happen in the giggle? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, we know we've got Unit. We know we've got the Toymaker. There's just going to be a lot going on. Probably too much. There's definitely going to be another Deus Ex Machina ending there. and I would know. Did not leave a bad taste in my mouth. Well, 6 out of 10's a fine. 6 out of 10 is literally just a fine score. Like, 8 out of 10 is like an A on my tier list. That it has to be a good one to get that high. 6 is just still a fine. It's above average. Average is 5. It's decent. It's not amazing. It's still decent. Do I think they'll keep up with Mavity going forward? No way. There's no way. There's no way every episode for like the next 10 years they're going to have to go Mavity rather than Gravity, and people are going to be like, why the fuck are they saying Mavity and not Gravity? Oh, it was one random throwaway joke at the start of this one episode from 6 years ago. So I think it's stupid that they try to imply that it's a permanent change and that Donna's completely rewritten history. Like, yeah, Unleashed was weird in that aspect. But yeah. Alright, I'm probably going to head off. I mean, it sounds like football's a disaster at the moment, so I'll just get on with my review. So, yeah, I'll just get on my review. I will try to get my review out on Thursday again. Like I said, I've got a very busy week ahead. So, fingers crossed I can get it done in time. But yeah, thank you all for joining me for my immediate review. I know I had kind of a bit of a hot take on this episode. Most people seem to enjoy it. I wasn't as keen, so it'll be interesting to see another review get dislike bombed almost like my last one, but for very different reasons this time. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And yeah, all right, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and thank you all for in chat. Thank you to anyone who super chatted. Yeah, and I will see you all on next Saturday for the giggle at the end of this, and have a good one. All right, so thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.